in life are always worth taking. Love and money is always worth making. Just grab on and hold on tight. You're in for the ride of your life.
Welcome to this special edition of the Beyond the Arc podcast, a Lady Vols exclusive edition of the Beyond the Arc podcast, joined today by Ryan Sylvia of Tennessee Rivals and Levi, as always. Ryan, Levi, how are y'all doing?
I'm doing
Doing
good.
well,
Thanks
man.
for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on again.
Love having you on, Ryan. I guess let's just get started off, Ryan. I just want to ask, if I told you at the beginning of Tennessee, on the preseason, if Tennessee would be sitting right now at 15th in the country at 14-2 with all losses to top 10 teams by a combined 3 points, would you roll the dice on that, or would you lock that in?
Man, I don't know if I would have believed that heading into the season. I thought they had a chance to be good. I thought they had a chance to maybe grab a couple upsets this year, but to be in the position they're in, where they're 3 points away, like Kim Caldwell said, from being a top five team in the country, and she said that's a negative and not a positive, and if you're that close, you should just win the game. But for them to be that close to being in that kind of vaunted group of teams, I'm not sure if I did see that coming. I thought realistically this was maybe a 6, 7, 8, 9 seed team, which for your first year isn't bad at all. But now all of a sudden they're firmly in that picture for maybe hosting a NCAA tournament game.
I just really have to ask you what you do you think the 5 in, 5 out substitutions can handle just such a long season? I know it rests people's legs. I just don't know that it's the most effective way to coach a basketball team. I just wonder your thoughts about the 5 in, 5 out because they have. I mean, it seems like they play almost 11 girls pretty heavily. I just don't know what your thoughts are on that. Can they get a rhythm, or what are your thoughts?
It's definitely interesting. Like it's not something that I've really seen much before this season in covering this team. I think if you're gonna press the way they do, and if you're gonna run the offense the way they do, where they really want to get out and transition, you kind of have to run that 5 in, 5 out. And I think we've seen their opponents, like in Oklahoma, which Oklahoma does it a little bit themselves, but it kind of got sped up more. And same with Arkansas, where they substitute a good amount too, but not to the degree that they did when they played the Lady Vols, because they realized that to keep up with what Tennessee is doing, they need to match that. So I think that it's something that is kind of necessary just because of the style of play. And I think that's an interesting point where you talk about getting into a rhythm and maybe you have a player that's hot. They come down the floor and hit two threes. And in a normal basketball game, that's someone that's not going to get off the floor for 10 more minutes. That was something we asked players early in the year. And they said, kind of contrarily, it helps because it feels like you're on the floor for all 40 minutes rather than just being on the floor for 25 because you're on and off so quickly. It feels like you never really cool down. So it's definitely something that Kim is very confident in, and it's not something she'll ever waver from. And it's going to be something we'll see, and it'll be interesting to see what it looks like down the stretch and how effective it is. But to me, it's definitely a necessity for the system that they run.
Ryan, I just want to talk about Talasia Cooper for a moment. We knew she was talented from the get-go. I mean, she's a former five-star recruit, signed and spent a year at South Carolina. Did the staff, Coach Caldwell, and just people around the program, did they expect her to come in and take so well to this type of play? I mean, 18 points a game, 50% from the field, and an eye-popping 3.6 steals. Were they surprised, or is it kind of something they expected?
I don't really think they're surprised. I think they saw the skill set she had and what they were able to see early in her career at South Carolina when she played a little bit, and then her teammates that came back from last year got to see her in practice and how good she did during those sessions. And then in this preseason, when this coaching staff got to look at her, they thought that like, yeah, this player fits really well with what the Lady Vols want to do, and that's on both ends of the floor. She's scoring at an insane clip, but she's also pushing like 3, 4, 5 steals every game, it feels like, which is just an absurd number. I know I talked to her before the season and asked her what, maybe any personal goals she had. And some players, they kind of push that to the side and say, oh, it's all about the team. Or some players say, I want to get to this stat point or this and that. She said she wanted to win SEC Defensive Player of the Year. And we all know how good she is on the offensive end. So for her to have that focus on the defensive end, I think also speaks to kind of the type of player she is. But the coaching staff really liked her this offseason. I don't know if they thought she would be scoring 20 plus points a game on a consistent basis like she is, but they definitely thought it was a possibility. And kind of like that first question you asked, they were going to ride. If you gave them that over under that she's scoring 18 and a half points per game, let's say this season, I think they would have taken that over.
I know that Talasha Cooper's getting a lot of the spotlight, but I would like for you, if you don't care, just to touch a little bit on Samara Spencer. I think Samara Spencer's been excellent. She's perfect for the Kim Caldwell system. She loves to shoot the three, which is pretty much what they do a lot of the
Yeah.
time. They take a lot of jump shots. So if you don't care, just to touch a little bit on Samara Spencer, and also I would also just like to ask you like what you thought about Jill Spear, because I think Jill Spear's been the most productive player for the Lady Vols so far this year, and I would just like you to touch on who you think has been kind of like the X factor, kind of driving the boat per se for the success that they've had so far.
Yeah, Samara's been awesome for Tennessee. I thought what Kim said after the game at Arkansas about her was interesting. She was asked a good bit about Samara because that's where she came from, Arkansas. So obviously the reporters over there were really interested to hear her perspective on a player that was just there. But she was saying, one, when they got to campus and they're trying to instill this new system, and it's something that the Lady Vols that returned had not much experience in. Even a lot of the transfers coming in didn't have much experience playing in a system like this. Samara had that experience playing in a high tempo system. So when they got to installing the offenses and trying to show guys or show girls what it looks like to play in this system, she was already kind of one step ahead, and she was pushing the floor and she was pushing the pace and she was showing her teammates what to do. But back to that Arkansas game, I think what is really interesting about her and what makes her such a good player is how good of a passer she is. I mean, we know she can shoot the ball. We saw the 9 3-pointers against NC Central, where she's a big part of breaking that basketball record, not even a women's college basketball, men's and women's college basketball, NBA, WNBA record, 33 pointers in a game. She can shoot the cover off the ball, but she also passed for 8 assists without a single turnover against Arkansas. And to have a point guard that you have so much confidence in, Sarah Puckett said, like you can tell, you kind of make eye contact on the way down the floor, and she knows exactly where you're going to go and gets the ball in the right spot. It's a really big deal for Tennessee, and for a lot of the players still kind of adjusting in some ways to getting used to things. To have a point guard that kind of puts you in the right position, I think is a big deal. But yeah, I mean, Jewel Spear has really turned it on in the last couple of games. She had a bit of an off night against Arkansas. They didn't really need her. But when the lights got bright against Oklahoma and against LSU, she was virtually unstoppable. Like it was incredible. Every time she got the ball, it felt like it was a Dalton Connect three that you just knew was going in. 28 points against Oklahoma, 25 against LSU, and I mean even against A&M, the open conference play, she had a 20 piece. So her 3 point shooting, it fits so well with what they want to do, and she has a background in doing that. When she was at Wake Forest, when she was a freshman or sophomore, she led the ACC in scoring because she could just shoot the cover off the ball. And we're starting to see that again, and that's another really big deal for Tennessee because when you fall into those holes like they did against those top 10 teams, you need someone to shoot you out of it, and that's been Joel Spear. But in terms of X factor, I mean, it feels like it's a different player every night. Talasha Cooper's your best player on the team, in my opinion. I think Jewel Spear and Samara Spencer are maybe right behind them, but two players that are going to have to be good down the stretch for Tennessee to have a successful season. One, it's Ruby Whitehorn. She's kind of the opposite of Talasha Cooper, and when they do the 5 in, 5 out, they're usually on the floor at the separate times, and Ruby kind of drives the offense when Talasha's not in, but then also Z Spearman, because you're going to play some really good bigs in the SEC. And Z kind of feels like more of a power forward at times, but she's being asked to step up and play some of the best bigs in the country. And so far, she's done a fine job. I think she would want that game against Oklahoma back a little bit against Reagan Beers, but she stepped up and she's done her job, and they're going to need her to continue doing that.
I mean, I've been personally surprised with just how well every player on the team has played. I mean, from top to bottom, and that kind of goes into what I was wanting to talk about next, Ryan. If you don't care, I'd like to touch on recruiting a little bit. I think that the development of everybody on the team has definitely helped with Tennessee's upcoming recruiting class. It's number 2 in the country currently. They got Maya Padal, Denia Prawl, Jada Civil, and Lauren Hurst personally, I was surprised they was able to put together such an elite class early, so this soon. Was you surprised at how quickly Tennessee got on the recruiting trail?
I definitely was. I mean, you hear that Kim Caldwell could recruit at a good level, but at the D2 level. And then, she got some players in, but didn't have much time to do it at Marshall. But that's not the SEC level. And that was a big question when she got here is can she recruit at the SEC level? And she was intentional with some of her staff picks, like a Roman Tubner and a Gabe Lazo, who both had recruiting in the SEC experience. And they've gone out and they've really knocked the ball out of the park in all five of these commits. You're looking at two 5 stars and three 4 stars, but really all three of those 4 stars are just on the borderline of being a 5 star product. So yeah, I mean, you really couldn't ask for a better start. And Kim talked about after the game against LSU that these are her players right now, and she wants to win right now. And it's a little offensive to her when people say once she gets her players in, they'll be really good because right now these are her players. But when you look at what's coming in this recruiting class, when you look at what she was able to accomplish in the transfer portal, going into that first year, you do start to kind of gaze beyond 2, 3, 4 years down the line. It's like, man, this team is going to be stacked with talent, and that at the end of the day is what wins you championships.
I agree. And Levi, if you don't care, I just want to add something onto that real quick. Five-star power forward Olivia Edwards from 2026
Stole it from me, Dallas.
recently released her top 10 schools: Florida State, North Carolina, Tennessee, Washington, Florida, Duke, LSU, Notre Dame, USC, and South Carolina. A pretty heavy list of schools there. Where do you think Tennessee currently stands among that mix, Ryan?
They're solid in the mix. They have connection. She's been on campus before, I believe, and she's familiar with this staff. And she, I mean, she really fits exactly what Tennessee does as well, which is something that kind of goes across the board with all the recruits that they've signed. They're not just getting the 5 star because the names. They're getting 5 stars and 4 stars that really fit what Kim Caldwell wants to do, and Olivia fits in that mold. But she has a connection with the Paldos, who you just mentioned in the 2025 class. So I know they're on her. And then you have a bunch of current players too that are kind of setting the stage for the years to come. And even someone like Jewel Spear, who's out of eligibility after this season, she's kind of been instrumental in this recruiting effort of getting in recruits' ears and telling them what it's like at Tennessee and kind of the opportunities that you'll have. But then also, I mean, Talasia Cooper and players like Kanaya Boyd, players like that will be back. They're also in these recruits' ears and saying, we want to play with you and we can accomplish some really big things. So we'll see what she chooses. I'm not sure if she exactly knows where she's going yet, but to be in the mix for players like this is that great first step, but you still have to close that deal.
Absolutely. I mean, for someone who just started playing basketball in 2019, it's just insane how well she has taken to the game.
I don't have a whole lot to say. I just would like to ask Brian, what is his prediction for the rest of the year? The schedule seems to be a tad easier the rest of the way, but also the SEC and women's basketball is just kind of a mess as well. So I just wanted to know what's your prediction on the seed and the projected final record. Torvik has it 21-8, 9-7 in the SEC. So I was just kind of wondering what you think and what you see taking place the rest of the way.
The schedule is kind of up and down. Like you get the stretch like that's coming up where you host Mississippi State on Thursday, then you travel out to Vandy, who's a pretty solid team, but a team Tennessee should beat on Sunday. And maybe you feel like you catch your breath, and then all of a sudden you're on the road and you're at number 7 Texas, and then you're hosting number 2 South Carolina. And that number 2, they kind of have to be behind UCLA right now just because of records and things like that. But that's probably the best team in the country, South Carolina. And then, okay, you get to catch your breath again. You go on the road to Missouri, a game Tennessee feels like it shouldn't have issues winning. And then you're hosting number 6 UConn. And then you're on the road at number 5 LSU. And then you look further down the schedule, Alabama, Tennessee will play their top 25 team. Kentucky, who looks really good. You got to go on the road to play them. So there's a lot of really good teams on this schedule. And I don't hate that record prediction. But at the same time, if you can pull that record off, you're still in the mix for one of those hosting seats just because of how good the SEC is and the caliber of opponents you play. you got to take care of business against the teams that you should win against. So you got to win these next two coming up. You got to win that road trip to Missouri. When you host Auburn, you got to win that. And when you're on the road at Florida or when you're hosting Georgia to finish the season, those are kind of must-win games. You have to get those out of the way, and you can't really drop more than one of those because of how difficult all these other games are. But you would like to see them pull off that upset once or twice this year. They were so close against Oklahoma and LSU. You'd like to see them find a way to win on the road at Texas, find a way to win when they're hosting South Carolina or UConn, or get revenge when they're going to LSU. If you can grab one of those, take care of business in the easy ones, you should be in line to get around that 4 or 5 seed. And if you're in that top 16 as a 4 seed, then all of a sudden you're hosting the first rounds of March Madness. And with that home court advantage, it sets you up really, really nicely to make that Sweet 16 appearance.
I've got one final question for you, Ryan. I just want to thank you real quick for coming back on. Obviously, Coach Kim Caldwell, her maternity leave is coming up soon. I know she's mentioned that she would like to not take as little time as possible off. Who do you think takes over during that time? Is it Gabe Lazo? Is it Roman Tubner, Jenna Burdett, or is it more of a collaborative effort?
Yeah, they haven't announced officially who it will be yet. If I had to guess right now, I would say it's probably gonna be Jenna. She's just been around Kim for so long, and you can tell that there's a lot of trust there. I'm sure it'll be collaborative though, and as you said, I'm sure Kim Caldwell will want to get back to coaching as quick as feasibly possible. But some things are bigger than sports, and this is definitely one of them. So. Uh,
Absolutely.
uh, it's coming up though, which is it's funny because you talk about the beginning of the year and you kind of like, okay, yeah, I guess eventually she'll have to miss a game or two, and then now all of a sudden it's probably about a week away, and I'm sure it's frustrating in the moment to be like, all right, well, you look at the schedule and all of a sudden that's a big road game at Texas and South Carolina coming to town, but like we just said, something's a little bit bigger than sports, so she'll take some much deserved maternity leave for as long as she pleases, and then she'll hop back into the driver's seat, and we'll see how the season ends.
Absolutely. We all hope for a healthy pregnancy and healthy baby. Levi, you have anything you would like to add before we get off of here?
I mean, I just want to know. I think Ryan talked to Faison today, so yeah. Hopefully the scoop you sent is as good as you made it out to be, because it's going to be really nice to get him on campus. But also, I think Kim Mulkey would have really preferred her to have that baby the other day. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, that was I don't think Imolki liked the reaction that a lot of people had to that, but yeah, that those were some, well, I'll just leave it at interesting comments ahead of it.
Absolutely interesting. Thanks for coming on, Ryan. Thanks
I
for
appreciate this
dealing with
happening.
me, asking some crazy questions, man.
No, you guys are good. I appreciate you having me on again.
Always, Ryan. Would you like to plug everything you've been doing lately, or just tell people where to find you on social media if they may not be following you already?
Yeah, sure. You can find me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Ryan T. Sylvia. The Vol Report page is at Tennessee Rivals, and then volreport.com or tennessee.rivals.com, whichever one's easy to remember. You'll find us at both places, football coverage, and that's team coverage and recruiting coverage, then men's, women's basketball, baseball, softball, really everything Tennessee athletics. We got you covered at Vol Report.
I'm glad to hear you say X. We don't want you getting got by Elon.
Shadow banned or something for not calling it what he wants.
Absolutely. But once again, thank you, Ryan and Levi, for your time, and hope to have you on again pretty soon, Ryan, to talk ball again.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks, guys.